Oh, another thing I want to talk about is let's ask ourselves, why do we really hate each other, black folk? Why? I mean, is it because we're just jealous or something like that? Or what is it in us that makes us want to hate this other black person more than the white person that both can both do us wrong equally? We see more in the news about the police treating us wrong, murdering us with impunity. And we riot and we say no justice, no peace, but we fail to boycott. If it's one thing I can credit, the civil rights movement for, and Martin Luther King and Martin X, they boycotted. Yes, they did the little riots and protests, whatever, but they boycotted after that too. They made America have an economic punishment after that, and we have to get back to that. I mean, we are slowly now, because I guess you could say that us turning against the Democratic Party now is a form of boycotting, but we have to keep going with that. We can't just stop at that part. We have to keep going. We have to show that, hey, we are here in this country as well. We want to be part of the deal. Reparations are owed to ADOS. All of us black folks here who don't fit the terminology or the requirements of ADOS have to get behind them and say, yes, reparations are owed to ADOS. And we have to use our votes to do so. My family is from Jamaica, so I don't fit the terminology of ADOS or the requirements of it, but I'm a supporter of it because I understand that in this country, we're all viewed as one big old N-word. So at the end of the day, if my American brother over here gets hurt, I'm getting hurt too. And I'd be a fool to want to get hurt. So it's smarter for me to come up and say, you know what? Let me go work with him over here. Use my vote to help him out because at the end of the day, I'm helping myself. Because if we as black people come up in this country, we come up together. There is no law that they pass that doesn't affect everyone in this country, whether in one way or another. Especially if it's a negative thing for black folks, it's negative for black folks everywhere in the country. Don't matter if you're from Jamaica or Africa or south of the border, north of the border, Europe, wherever. If you notice something, every other community in this country comes in and grabs power. Now, black folk in this country, we do have power, but we use it like a damn fool. We spend $1.4 trillion on whatever we spend it on in the country, on Nikes, on Gucci's, on Jordans, on Adidas, whatever. And then you see that Gucci doesn't like us. Some of these brands come out and they openly disrespect us. And some of us will still go to them and buy their stuff. So we'll still do that. Instead of saying, you know what, screw that. You know what, I'm going to support my own black brands over here. We need to be a supplier or producer in everything we consume. Everything. I'm not saying we can't go out of our community and buy something from, a Nike or Jordan, or I should say Jordan, Adidas, whatever. But we have to spend more money within our community. There's no reasons why a church, these black churches can make $54 billion a year. And they sign the 501c3 and the communities outside the church look like shacks. There's no reason why we have so many churches in the community in the first place. Think about that. That's by design. You got churches and liquor stores. In any community, black community, you'll find those things in abundance. Now, I'm not saying we can't go to church, whatever. We can't have multiple churches. Because if churches the way we come together, fine. My only problem with that is take the white Jesus out of it. We have to learn to get white Jesus out of our mindset. Because if our mind isn't free, then we're not free. And I can say this too because I'm born in this country of the USA, and I've grown up in the education system, and every day I have to question myself. They taught me this in school, okay? Does this make sense with what I know now? Is this really true? For example, they taught me Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue and that he discovered the lands, whatever. What they didn't teach me was he started the slave trade. Him and his men wiped out a whole bunch of people called the Arawaks in the Bahamas region. What they didn't tell me about George Washington was, oh, he was a slave owner. Oh, his wife owned more slaves. They didn't say about Thomas Jefferson that, okay, you know what, that he knew that America's greatest sin was slavery and that God's justice does not sleep forever. They didn't mention that stuff. The Civil War, they made it like, okay, we fought to free the slaves because the North had freed their slaves and then like the South hadn't freed theirs. So they fought a war over it. That's what they told me. They didn't tell me that in reality, hey, they fought that stuff over taxes because guess what? The southern states will have more power and they're making more money because of their free labor. They also didn't tell me that, you know what, the slave revolts were popping off left and right back then. We got to get back to them slave revolts, that movement. We got to come together and go. I'm not saying we have to become radical, whatever, and hurt innocent people. But as far as a political group, we have to come together. Doesn't matter if you are even what they would consider biracial or full black, dark skin, brown skin like myself, or any other composure of black. We all one people. No matter where you come from, we have this mindset that some of us are even afraid to say that we're black. People in the Latin community, when you ask them, and they could be darker than me or dark as me, they say, oh, I'm Puerto Rican. Oh, I'm Mexican. Oh, I'm Dominican, whatever. All those are nationalities. Your race is black. Now, let me get back to that Civil War thing about that right quick. Okay? Civil Wars fought over taxes, and the slave wars were going off left and right. Now, another thing was happening during that time, right, was gynecology. They didn't teach you that gynecology was discovered by the murdering black women, doing operations without anesthesia on black women. They didn't teach you about how they used to use black babies as alligator food. That's why they called them alligator babies. They didn't teach you about how black men were sodomized and castrated. They didn't teach you about that stuff. Or they didn't mention how many of us got lynched behind looking at a white woman or any other reason because they wanted to. Notice they lynched you on a Sunday. They said the Lord died on the cross. Notice they lynched you behind on the cross. That means the Lord looked like you, black people, like me. So when they say to you, yes, he died on the cross, yes, because y'all lynched us on the cross, whatever. That means it was us. We would call him Yeshua, Yahweh, Jesus, Allah, whatever you want to call him. He is a king with many names. He is an energy. Feminine and masculine. You need both in this world. God is the universe, the divine order, whatever you want to call him / her, whatever. He took a physical presence as a black person or as a black man on this earth. No one else can tell me no otherwise, whatever. If they do, prove it to me. Prove it to me that he was some other race. Because guess what? Look at the history of it. Go back and look at all the different lands, whatever. Who were the first people on those lands? You will find that they were dark-skinned people. And if they're dark-skinned people, guess what? They're black. And we have to remove the negative image that the white social media has put on being black. We have to get rid of that. Your dark skin is beautiful. Your blackness is beautiful. You have to understand that. All of this swirling, we have to stop all that. I'm not saying that you can't have interracial dating or whatever, but notice something. Every time, or most times, a black man has some stature. Sorry. Goes to one of these white chicks, right? And any white girl can turn around and say at any given moment, "Oh, he raped me." And if you notice something, the white folks who run the country, whether it be from the government, the Senate, the Congress, the White House, whatever, all the way down to your DAs, your judges, your police officers, your mayors, whatever. Notice they all white. They all white. A lot of them are racist or racist sympathizers. Okay? Notice Alfred Wilson, just for kissing the girl, 12 years behind bars. Okay? And I think they're still going after Quintez Cephas. He had a threesome with them, consensual, but they turned around and said he raped them. That's what they said. So, black men, mainly, I know for a fact I've seen more black men doing the swirling thing than black women. Both sides got to stop with that crap. Both sides have to stop with that. I'm not saying you can't love who you want. Do what you want. But pay attention to what's going on around you. And you see that, wait a second. I see black men going white women. White woman says he raped her. He goes to jail. If it happened to him, it could very much happen to you. Emmett Till wasn't that long ago. There are some people that are alive today that can still remember him, or at least, they have kids, or their kids have parents that were living back then and could tell them how it was back then. The 50s wasn't so long ago. There are people who were alive then, still alive now, and have common sense that could tell you what's going on. I've met some of them. And a lot of black families over here in this country, those who live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was destroyed by the U.S. government. That's only maybe, say, 6 or 5 generations before that, before now. That's what might have been passed down for 2 generations. The 60s wasn't that long ago. Most folks' parents were kids back then. Most folks' grandparents were adults back then and could tell you what was going on back then. They lived that time. They know. Whether you be white, black, whatever. And nothing we have to understand about the 60s, whatever. Those of us who said, "Oh, Bernie Sanders was there for the civil rights movement," know this. He was there for his people. Maybe back then, he wanted to help black folks out, but not now. We have voted for the Democratic Party for 50 plus years and have gotten 0 in return. I will ask you this. What has Barack Obama, a Democratic president, done for black people? That 94 crime bill was written by a Democrat, Joe Biden, signed by Democrat Bill Clinton. Joe Biden in the video said there was a consensus on that. He made it look horrible in that video, like predators, like monsters, whatever. When history says it was his people that raped, pillaged, murdered, enslaved people, and they have done things to every other people on this earth, not just black folks. So black people, whether you be on the continent, in the U.S., Canada, wherever you at, we got to come together. We got to come together. And one day, I want to so bad. I want to go to Africa. Just to go see it. I want to go to Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Senegal, Egypt, wherever I want to go. You should go travel. You should go to Jamaica, to Trinidad. Anywhere we at, you should go. You ain't have to stay there, whatever, but go and see what it looks like. We can't be relegated to the shores of America or whatever country we're in. No, we have to connect globally. We have to be able to learn about each other globally and understand each other, because that's part of the problem. A lot of African brothers and sisters don't understand what happened here on the U.S. soil with slavery, whatever. So we got to tell them what happened. And a lot of us don't know our African culture. They can come and tell us, okay, well, where I'm from, this was our culture. This is how we do things. This is how we come together and join. I'm not saying we... Yes? Myself. I'm on YouTube. Later. Sorry, that was my mom. But anyway, we gotta come together, people. Alright, y'all have a good night now.